Hello, welcome to Locked on Sharks, the premier hockey podcast of your favorite tanking team in the Bay Area. On today's episode, we have a nice crossover with Locked on Coyotes. We're going to discuss two tanking teams as they're heading towards the bottom five in the NHL. Preview this game, kind of talk about the big stories from each team so far this season, and give predictions of who we think is going to win the fight for Fantilli. So all that and more on today's episode of Locked on Sharks.
You're Locked on Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm your host, JD Young, contributor at Fear the Fin and San Jose Hockey Now. I want to thank you guys for making Locked on Sharks or Locked on Coyotes, whichever you are listening to, your first listen of the day. And I am joined by the Locked on Coyotes hosts, Robyn and Carl. And we have a fight for Fantilli on our hands here, don't we, tonight?
Oh, it's gonna be fantastic. No, seeing these two teams tank and the way they have been, it's like different ways. But yeah, that fight for Fantilli or for the tank hard for Bedard, whichever one you choose to subscribe to.
I've given that up already to the Ducks at this point of the season. They're one of the worst teams I have ever laid eyes on watching hockey, especially for how talent rich they are. They are just bad at hockey. But so I'm starting to kind of accept the fight for Fantilli here. So, yeah, I mean, we have two teams who are both bad, but kind of different ways of being bad, right? The Coyotes have been in the burn it down, we're going to rebuild this thing from the ground. And I really like the moves that they're making and, kind of taking that approach. And the Sharks are in the, we don't want to say we're rebuilding, but we're totally rebuilding while we're trying to kind of hang on to some of our old pieces here. So, let's start with you guys. What do you think has kind of been the big storyline for the Coyotes so far this season, as we're kind of past the quarter mark here?
I think it's taking a look at some of the emergence of the young talent. It's still early in the rebuild, but young talent is already starting to show. You have like a pretty bright young defenseman in JJ Mosier, Matthias Maccelli, and forward. Moving his way up. The rookie Dylan Gunther, just looking phenomenal. Just recently got loaned to Team Canada for the World Juniors coming up. But like those young guys and more are just making their shine on the Coyotes and doing what they can, trying to make an impact, make this season interesting, despite what this season is.
Carl, what do you think's kind of been the biggest kind of surprise or big story for you so far for the Coyotes?
I think Karel Vejmelka having a good second season has been great to see. He played well last year, but there's always that kind of worry. Is this a fluke? Do you just get hot for a while and he's not going to be able to support it? He didn't look good in the preseason, and then he's just been lights out in the regular season. It has been great to see. The team is much more comfortable in front of him than they are in front of Connor Ingram. Just because he's been playing so well. He could really steal games, and it's kind of nice to see that affirmed.
Yeah, I mean, when I was kind of doing my research, I was like, oh, wow, like the Coyotes actually had like a real goaltender. I know it's kind of been a revolving door back there for you guys. I know Adin Hill was back there, forever Shark Adin Hill. It's been kind of, but it seems like you guys might have found at least a potential goaltender of the future, and it's nice to see him playing well so far this season, right?
Yeah, found him in like the Czech second league too. Like I still want to know like who on the scouting staff was like that Vejmelka guy.
That's the guy. He's the guy. Yeah. And I think for the Sharks, right, the big story so far this season has to be the Erik Karlsson renaissance. I mean, Erik Karlsson has been playing as a potential Norris, winner this season, or at least he's going to be in in the talks for Norris. And after 3+ years of kind of injury-riddled seasons with Karlsson and kind of not living up to the contract, him now just kind of putting this team on his back along with Timo Meier and Tomas Hertl is definitely kind of the big story for the Sharks of just seeing Erik Karlsson kind of be Erik Karlsson again. And it's been a long time coming for those of us who support the Erik Karlsson propaganda machine that is wildly running rampant right now. So
it was interesting because as I was preparing for the preview, I noticed that you guys are pretty good in goals for, like, not the best, not top tier, but 14, which is really impressive for a tanking team. Like, you wouldn't expect that amount of offense, like bottom half of the league, definitely. But, you know, with Karlsson and some of the other older guys, it's just been like surprisingly fun.
Yeah, I mean, they're especially since November, the offense has come to life for this team. They've definitely they figured out the power play. You know, David Quinn can that's one of his things is he can actually coach up a power play, and the Sharks power play has been really, really good since November, the start of November. Same thing with the offense. The problem is they can't stop a nosebleed. So they've been playing a lot of like 6-5 type of games, which is really fun and entertaining hockey. But they keep losing them. So it's kind of they're threading the needle of the perfect tank of being fun and engaging and enjoying to watch, but you're still losing every game compared to like last year where they were losing every game like 3-1, and it's just a slog to kind of get through the season. At least you get to watch Erik Karlsson and Timo Meier and Tomas Hertl do cool things for the while you're still losing. So
I'll say that's a similar draw that I think you guys and I and us can both subscribe to, because the Coyotes last year in a similar way were just so god darn awful that, you know, it was depressing. And this year it's like they're competitive. They've got elements that, you know, make things interesting. And then Clayton Keller's having one of his best seasons, and you know, and people are having some excitement, and they're still bad, but they're, you know, finding ways to somehow win some games surprisingly.
Yeah, the most frustrating thing about watching the Coyotes this season is they will snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory. They'll give up a late goal. They'll take a penalty when they absolutely should not, and that part is frustrating to watch, seeing it happen over and over again. But like the overall results are pretty okay. Like scoring's up, but goals are fun, and we're at least getting some more.
Yeah. All right. Before we continue, and then we kind of dig into kind of this matchup a little bit more, and then we'll talk about kind of the road to victory for each team. Do need to take a break. Let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you guys by BetOnline. BetOnline has you guys covered this season with more sports odds, info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. You got pro football. You have college bowl season here, basketball, World Cup. They've got you covered with everything that you would want over at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, which you do because you're listening to one right now, you can find more of those at BetOnline as well. They're the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info in. So head to their website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. So yeah, I mean, the Coyotes, like you said, kind of a frisky team. I know they've had to play 1,000 games on the road so far this year. So I assume the end of the season is going to be more kind of friendly. So you can kind of maybe see this team as they start to kind of, these young guys start to kind of gain confidence, start to gel, get to actually play home games. Maybe they might be able to kind of be a little berserker mode at the end of the season, right?
I mean, it's a possibility, especially because if you see what they did over the weekend in their first two games since coming back from that, obnoxious 14 game road trip, they come back and they win 2 straight games against Boston and Philadelphia, and you're just like, what are they doing? But they somehow win those games at home, including a win on fights inside the stands, but the whole nother thing.
Well, the issue with that is the Coyotes are kind of potentially going to click now, but they're going to be just decimated at the trade deadline. So, like, who even knows what that is going to look like? And that is probably going to undo a lot of the kind of chemistry. One of the things that they were always talking about on the road trip was like, no, this is how a team comes together. This is like a massive road trip. You really are going to know the people at the end of it. But a lot of those people are going to be on a different team.
So, I mean, I know the Coyotes, they've been in seller mode for the past couple of years. I mean, at some point you kind of run out of people to sell off. I know Jakob Chychrun is the big name, right? And then I guess Shane Gostisbehere would be kind of the other. Who are the kind of those two? Anybody else I'm kind of missing or forgetting that would be potential pieces that they would sell off here at the deadline?
I could potentially see Schmaltz moving.
Yeah, it's I think in the case of like the Coyotes this year, in what the thing that everyone has been saying, and it's kind of this is the idea that I subscribe to. It's that really anyone could potentially be on the table with the exception of Clayton Keller. No, like he's untouchable. Anyone else is like, yeah, it's a possibility.
The only one closest to not being traded other than Keller, I would say, is Lawson Krause. And that's mostly just because he is the type of player that Bill Armstrong wants. So,
and he just signed a new deal, right?
Yeah, he just signed a new 5-year deal. He is like the prototype for what Bill Armstrong thinks that the Coyotes should be, like a majority of it, like that mixture of size and skill.
That makes sense. I mean, because you at some point I know you're burning things down, but you have to start to kind of rebuild and grow, and you don't want a bunch of kind of just kids running around. You have to have some veterans and adults who at least know what they're doing and can kind of help these kids along here. So I think you're hoping now that the Coyotes start to turn into that phase as they start to kind of develop these young guys and start having these young guys kind of make more of an impact, right?
That's the hope. You want to be able to have like we look at I've been saying the emergence of the young talent, but if you have a team that's average age 23, are they really going to be learning anything? Because you're not going to have anybody who's been there before, who's seen those super long road trips, maybe not as long as what we just saw, but seen stuff like that, or
who's played winning hockey, all these guys
winning hockey, who's seen everything that you can see in the NHL, and kind of can help teach that to the younger kids who are just maybe getting their first, second, third year in the NHL straight out of juniors.
I mean, they're about to be entering year 3 of the rebuild next season, and you kind of want them to be, not getting into the playoffs, but like starting to
progress,
look competitive.
Kind of like where the Sabres are at right now, right? Where it's like last year you saw them at the end of the season. They were kind of a fun kind of berserker team, right? And then this year you see them, they're a very, very good offense, and they're still working on things in the back end, but like they're a fun team to watch night in, night out, right?
Yeah. And I do think the Coyotes have a potential to get there. Armstrong has been great at not signing a whole lot of long-term deals. So like we can shuffle out a lot of the kind of people who are here this season, if they don't live up to expectations, or for some of them, if they choose to retire after this, like we could shuffle them out and bring in hopefully like a better crop of free agents at some point and signings and that, because I do think that they're going to need support in a way that they do not have right now, and I'm not worried about them getting it because they have the room to get that eventually.
Yeah, that makes sense. Again, it's part of that next step of the rebuild, right? It's easy to burn things down, but then it's like, okay, how do you start supporting these young players? How do you make sure you have them with the right people around them, so that way they're not trying to kind of take on everything? And that's kind of how you can squander or ruin their development by kind of making them do too much or before they're kind of ready for it. So.
Yep, we all watch the Edmonton Oilers.
We watched the Edmonton Oilers. You can see it with the Sens right now too, where it's like they kind of let their kids run around for free for a long time, and now when there's like actual expectations with this team, they don't really know what to do because they just don't have enough kind of veterans who've been there and kind of seen it all, right? But that's my thought.
I mean, we saw like I guess like a half glimpse of that when in last season when Jakob Chychrun ended up being the number 1 defenseman, you kind of let him run the defense. He didn't look good for a while. It's like, oh wait, he needs a veteran alongside him to kind of help, make sure he's he's in check. But yeah, that definitely shows right there.
All right, so let's get. Or sorry, did you have a question? Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask you about the Sharks and your guys' rebuild. You said that like no one's really talking about it. But is there the acknowledgement? Because I get the feeling with like Vancouver, they are not acknowledging that they're going to need a rebuild, and they're just like fingers and ears. Nah, can't hear you. How is things for the Sharks end?
I would say for the Sharks then it's kind of Mike Grier, new general manager Mike Grier. He did say at the press conference that sometimes you have to take a step back to take 2 steps forward. And that's kind of the first time that we actually heard anything. And he's basically said anybody is available with the exception of Tomas Hertl, who just re-signed last year. Just because everyone's available doesn't mean they're going to be moving, right? I mean, there's the buzz, of course, Erik Karlsson's going to get traded, but Erik Karlsson still has 4 years after this season at $11.5 million. And I just, especially with, I know the cap's going to start to eventually go up here. I just don't see a team being able to fit in his contract, even if the Sharks eat a portion of it. Again, if the Sharks eat a portion of it, are they going to want to have, $4 million, $5 million plus on their contract 4 years from now when you're going to be hopefully contending by then, right? Type of situation. Logan Couture, of course, like he's not going anywhere just because he has a 3-team no trade clause and he's the captain. He said, I don't want to leave. They have a lot of guys who like Vlasic. Again, you're not going to be able to trade Vlasic just because Vlasic has $7 million for 4 years and a no movement clause. Like a lot of people are potentially available, but they're not. I guess the big one though is going to be Timo Meier, who's having a monster season this year. Last year of his deal, he's an RFA after this season, so the Sharks could keep him and kind of play this game again. But I mean, his qualifying offer is a $10 million qualifying offer. And so it's going to be a big kind of what are they going to do with him? And if they trade him at the trade deadline, I think that's when the actual signaling of, okay, this is actually going to be a rebuild now. If they re-sign him, then maybe they think they can kind of contend here sooner rather than later. But it's kind of a lot of waiting to see what's going on with the Sharks.
Now, will there at that point be any kind of acknowledgement from the GM or coach at all? Because here, for example, here in Arizona, they're like, yeah.
Yeah, I think though, because he did say, like Mike Grier did say, like they're not going to go. He said like Coyotes full, mention the Coyotes by name. We're not doing that, right? And because I think they still believe they have a lot of pieces that can still be very helpful. And I think for them it's waiting for like your prospects like Bordelot and Eklund and those guys to be ready to kind of make the jump. And he's hoping that parts of the old core and then you have the new core that they can kind of meld together and hopefully you can start to contend here in a couple of years. But we shall see. I'm still a little dubious on the plan. It's just, we'll see. So,
I mean, the year before the Coyotes started their rebuild, it was the last year of Tocchet's reign, and it was kind of like, hey, see what you could do this season. Didn't make the playoffs, and it's like, all right, we're gonna blow it all up. We're doing that now. So I definitely can imagine a GM coming in and be like, hey, we may do something, we may not. Let's see how it goes, and then depending on how it goes, that's how your team's going to be.
Yeah, and I think that was Mike Grier's kind of plan for this year was, okay, let's see how this season goes, right? We'll get a new coach in here. Bob Bugner was replaced by David Quinn. And, let's see if maybe some of these guys will give this old core at least one more shot, see how it goes, and then we can kind of go from here type of situation. So I think, though, it'll be interesting to see what they do with Timo Meier, because if they re-sign him, one, you're going to be paying a lot for Timo Meier, and he's worth every single penny. But two, if you trade him, you're going to lose that trade just because Timo Meier is really good at hockey.
It's tough to start a rebuild with a trade that you're going to lose. That's not the way to go.
Yeah, it's just I don't see them getting enough back to warrant like trading Timo Meier. And if Timo Meier says I don't want to be here anymore, then you have to trade him, and there's nothing else like you can do with that. But I just think with how good Timo Meier is, and he's just turned 26, like he's just in his prime right now, like he's going to be good for the next 4 or 5 years. Like you're giving away an asset that is going to be really, really, really good for still a really, really long time. So, but before we get into tonight's game, kind of give our predictions and our road to success for each team. Do want to let you guys know about the Locked On Sports Today podcast. Thank you guys for making Locked On Sharks and or Locked On Coyotes. Maybe you're listening to both at the same time for the like supersonic sound round effect. Anyway, for your next listen, go check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. All right, so let's actually tonight's game. Kind of a fun game. The Sharks coming off a couple days rest here. James Reimer is expected to be back, his first game back since November 25th. We might actually have kind of a goalie battle here tonight, right?
Yeah, it could be interesting.
I mean, it's a possibility to see a goalie battle, but it's also a possibility it could be a complete shootout.
Oh, I'm in the if this game's gonna be like 6-4 type of realm because the Sharks only play games like that. Let's remember
the last December game these two played against each other. Exactly, was it December 28th of last year? It was what 7-8.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yes, this game I know. Part of me was like maybe no. The Sharks only play like high scoring games right now, so. Yeah. I know you got Clayton Keller coming off a hat trick. Is he kind of the big player for you guys to watch here for the Coyotes?
Oh, every single night, Clayton Keller is definitely the player to watch.
Yeah. And I think for the Sharks, right, it's kind of Timo Meier, who's like I mentioned before, 14 goals this season, has been just an absolute monster for the Sharks, driving that first line of Hurdle. Meier and LeBanc, and I don't know if the Coyotes have anybody defensively who can slow down Timo Meier, unfortunately.
I mean, Carl and I have discussed the Coyotes defense in the sense that, like, defensively on that side, they've got some holes. But I think, I don't know, Carl, what do you think?
I imagine Jakob Chychrun's job is going to be just be on the ice whenever that line is. And Chychrun has looked good since coming back from injury. He's playing 100%. We're seeing that more in his offensive game. I'm not sure we're seeing it to that same elite level on his defense.
And that would be and to be able to slow down a player like Timo Meier, then I think that would be a test for his trade value, because we won't be able to make sure that, he can play both sides. People maybe look like an offensive defense, but if you can get a high value defenseman on both sides, that's the goal.
Yeah. I mean, I see Chychrun. Timo Meier has played really well right now. And that's fine. I mean, I subscribe to the defenses for nerds, just play a bunch of offense games. I mean, Erik Karlsson's, watch Erik Karlsson, right? Erik Karlsson will make a defensive play once in a while, but like he's the best when he has the puck and he's making offensive plays. And Jakob Chychrun, I think, is kind of in the same vein, right? Of like go score and go do fun stuff like that. And that's, who cares about defense, right? Defense is for nerds. Sorry, Erica. Yeah, hope you're not listening. All right, so the Coyotes win tonight. If what?
They stay out of the box.
Staying out of box is, I think, the biggest one. Penalties has been a massive issue for the Arizona Coyotes, in the sense that like they will literally, be competitive for a good portion of the game, and then a really bad penalty will just wreck them and like completely turn everything upside down. And it's happened on more games than both Carl and I can count.
Yeah. Pretty much every game the Coyotes have lost, there is a pivotal penalty you can point to. They will often like give up a penalty 2 minutes after scoring a goal, which is just not what you want. they have on multiple occasions taken 3 penalties in the first 10 minutes of the game.
No.
They probably lead the league in too many men on the ice calls and have in one game gotten too many men on the ice.
Oh, no. That plays right into the Sharks' hands, too, because the Sharks' power play, like I said, is very much improved, especially compared to last year and then even compared from the start of this year. So since November 1st, the Sharks' power play is operating at 26.7%, which is 10th in the NHL. And then we know the Sharks' penalty kill is really, really good. I think they're second in the league now. They dropped to second in the league. But, yeah, the special teams, I think that's where the Sharks are going to win this game, right? I think if 5-on-5, if it's kind of a close game, the Sharks special team is going to be wherever puts them over the edge, just because, like you guys said, the penalty kill for the Coyotes is a little rough, and I don't think the power play for the Coyotes is clicking very well right now.
At this point in the season, unfortunately, they started off really good.
Yeah, they were really hot to start off, and we're like, is this real? And then they got 2 of their better players back, and it just all fell apart.
Oh, no.
Still don't know how that happened. I don't know how adding Jakob Chychrun and Nick Schmaltz to the power play made it worse, but it absolutely did.
Oh, no.
I'm going to say it's a possibility that both of them didn't work with John Madden enough, but...
Could be. All right. Yeah, like I said, I think the road for the Sharks is going to be like the special teams. If they can capitalize on the special teams, I think that's going to be their road to victory in this game. All right. Who do you got?
Oh, God.
So give me a score and then give me a goal score. So
I'm going to go ahead and make this one, I'd say, relatively high-scoring game. Make this one a 6-4 game. And Sharks will win this one.
Who scores? Give me a goal score.
We're going to see... I'm going to see Matias Maccelli score.
Like it.
I'm going to be the optimistic one this time. Coyotes beat the Bruins. That means something. Just for the locker room. I'm going to go 6-4 Coyotes. I am going to say Nick Bjugstad with a 5-on-5 goal.
There you go. I got 4-3 Coyotes. I think Timo Meier and Jakob Chychrun both have a goal and assist, upping that trade value. But I think James Reimer is going to be a little rusty in his first game back. So, yeah, I got 4-3 Coyotes helping the Sharks tank. Let's go, baby. Fight for Fantilli. All right, Robyn, Carl, where can the people find you and the show?
Yeah, you can find the show on Apple, on Google, anywhere you can find your podcast. Any local listeners and anyone who likes to follow local news can also find us on the KPNX 12 News app for down here. And that part is amazing. On social media, we're on Facebook, which is facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes, and on Instagram @LockedOnCoyotes, and on Twitter @LO_Coyotes. I'm personally @Robyn_Leaño. And Carl?
Most of my stuff now is coming from the 5 for Howling page. It's the word 5, number 4, word howling.
And you can find me on Twitter @MyFryhole, where I make terrible jokes. You can find Locked On Sharks, of course, wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. And find Locked On Sharks on all your social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram @LockedOnSharks. And until next time, bye, friends.